Yo everyone, welcome back to Dark Souls Remastered. Last time we made our way down through Blighttown from the Valley of the Drakes, and then here by Chaos Witch Quelaag, who was the second guardian of our Bells of Awakening. We rang that second bell and got access to Sen's Fortress. And today, we will not be making our way directly to Sen's Fortress. We've still got a little bit to do down here. We're going to see some things that we can do down in the Demon Ruins to sort of set us in a good way for going up to Sen's, and then the area afterwards, I don't want to really spoil it, are probably the two most roadblocky areas in the game, for completely different reasons really, but really what you want to have if we follow this little detour down here into the Demon Ruins is we're going to get ourselves in a position where if we need some extra souls on the fly, we're going to have a way to farm those up. So straight away right here we have another Demon Ruins bonfire. You don't really need to light it if you don't want to, but we're going to do that. We're going to drop the claymore just now for something a little bit lighter. It might seem a bit pointless considering how well the claymore served us so far and that we've been leveling up and things, but this next boss we're going to be fighting actually doesn't really require a specifically strong weapon. So if you remember in the last episode I mentioned that these guys can actually grab you and inflict you with their sort of egg things they've got here on their back. It's pretty disgusting. However, if you do get covered in that, then if you go back and speak to Aenge, who's standing next to the spider lady we've just come from here at the beginning of the episode, then he will actually give you his specific pyromancies from the Great Swamp. So there's nothing really great to get off him, in my opinion. You get Poison Mist, Toxic Mist and Acid Mist, and in this game they're not really that great. Poison Mist has its uses. It can be used in certain situations and even on some bosses. Toxic Mist won't really affect bosses, and I guess it's more of a PvP thing, but even then it's pretty hard to land. And then Acid Mist actually degrades equipment, and I'm not too sure if that works on enemies in this game, like PvE enemies. I don't think that it does. However, it's not a PvP style spell that doesn't really do too much in this game. However, that's not to say they don't have uses. There is a trophy, or if you're playing on Xbox and Steam, then there's an achievement, I suppose, to collect every pyromancy in the game, and so you might want to grab them for that. So as we're making our way down here, these guys aren't attacking us straight off the bat. They usually do. I think they did in the original version, perhaps not in this. As you can see, they're kind of praying towards this massive dome here. That is going to come into play a little bit later on. We'll perhaps talk about some of the lore implications of this area as we come down here. So these guys are going to attack us. This guy's not. As you can see here, we have some absolute eye-burstingly bright lava. It was way brighter in the original version, if you can believe that. It was so obnoxious in the original version, but they've actually managed to tone it down pretty well here. Next thing you're going to see, well, you can maybe see a bit of it whenever we made our way down with some giant sort of tentacly things, and that's going to come into play right now as we head into this next quote-unquote boss room. So we're going to head on in, and you'll notice that unlike most bosses in the game, nothing actually happens when you first step through, and that's absolutely fine. So we're going to get familiar with this area. It's not going to be too long, or too battle worthy, I suppose, I guess you could say. It looks a bit awkward, a bit difficult to deal with, but not to worry, that's not really going to be a problem when coming into play for us. So we are going to go down this little pathway here, and you want to remember this little pathway is here as we make our way towards this big guy here. So this is the Ceaseless Discharge, an absolutely wonderful name, and as you can tell he's totally thrilled about it as well. Looks to be absolutely enjoying his life, and he's not going to become aggressive until we grab this here. So this looks like a kind of corpse on a slab. It's a little ceremonial pile here. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. As soon as we grab this, he's going to aggro. And what you want to do is hang back. He's going to throw lava. And then we're going to run. And we're just going to keep running. And remember that pathway down here on the left? That is where we're going. Just keep on trucking. Just keep on going. Ignore all the noise, all the scary things that are happening behind you. When you get to here, this is a pretty sharp left turn. Don't worry about it. Just head straight on back towards the fog, because if you just try to run away from the boss, just forget he exists. If you start to run out of stamina, don't be afraid to let that circle button go, or the B button, or whatever on the controller or keyboard that you're using. I hope it's controller. And when you reach the fog gate, just stop. He will then try and chase us. And he'll make a leap. And then you just want to kind of empty your stamina bar and his arm. Let me maybe see if... There we go. One-handed is probably better because you can probably get more attacks in a single stamina bar. And as you can see, the poor old boy falls. Which I don't... Is that really a pit? I think it kind of is. So what that's going to do is that's going to remove all that lava down there. Which is great. Not necessarily right now, we don't really want to go down there, but for later on in the game, that's going to be something we're going to have to make use of, so it's good that that's happened. Also get a pretty hefty 20,000 souls, a humanity and a homeward bone. So, we can put our claymore back on now, wherever I put it. There's there. And so, a few things then. That looks like it's kind of a glitch. A lot of people kind of called it a glitch and an exploit back in the day. I think, as you can see here from the way the terrain's formed, and by if you actually watch him jump towards you, he makes that sort of diving maneuver and hangs on and then does a little falling animation if you cut him up. I think that's actually the intended way, I think, for the most part anyway. They were aware that was going to happen, and it is definitely part of the way you're meant to defeat him. Or a way you can defeat him. It's not an exploit, it's not a glitch, it's not taking advantage of the game, it's actually built into the mechanics, so don't feel bad about doing it. The second thing is you can fight him legitimately. I think he's actually supposed to be a pretty tanky, pretty tough boss to fight head on. I've never done it myself, but it is possible. If you do want to do that, then feel free to go ahead and do it. So what's the kind of background of this whole area? We've seen a couple of spider women, a giant semi-spider guy who's about 80 feet tall. And it'll serve as well to know this for coming back down later in the game. So this is actually the entrance to Lost Izalith. There's the Izalith Dome, sort of over there. If you remember from the intro cutscene, if you watched it, the Witch of Izalith existed with her 8 daughters. And as the first flame began to fade, she decided she was going to try and make her own, since her and her daughters were masters of fire magic and all that. It kind of makes sense, but unfortunately they failed, and what it did was cause the creation of this sort of chaos flame, which mutated everything around it and created demons. So if you remember the Taurus demon that we fought at the beginning of the game, there's a ton more down there. And there's also this goat demon here, the Capra demon, which we've avoided thus far in the playthrough. These are all results of the chaos flame, and these 2 spider women are daughters of the Witch of Izalith, and Ceaseless Discharge right there that we just beat is the Witch of Izalith's son. You don't really get too much information on that right now, but as we come back down here later on in the game, there's much more to be explored in the second half. We'll get a little bit more information about that. But for now, we have 25,000 souls, and we can begin to make our way back up to the undead parish. So at this point, you really have a personal choice to make. 25,000 souls is not, you know, nothing. It's not a small amount to sniff at. If you really want to use that to level up, and you can also pop Quailag's soul to give you some additional ones, feel free to do that. Go ahead and level up, put some things into perhaps endurance, maybe. I think our HP is okay right now. 16 should be alright. You kind of want to get your endurance up to at least 20. Push it towards 40 as soon as possible. We're fine with strength and dexterity because we already have the claymore, but you may want to just push those up to get yourself some better scaling on it. It'll come more into play for us a little bit later on, as we're going to, of course, try and keep upgrading the claymore until it's maxed out, and you'll get a better scaling grade with that. So it's entirely up to yourself if you want to use the level ups for that purpose. We are not. If you remember, I may have mentioned it briefly. I know I mentioned it in the episode that was ultimately lost. I think I briefly mentioned it in the one that we actually used when we met Andre. But you may remember that he has an item on him called the Crest of Artorias. And that's pretty hefty. I think it's 20,000 souls, or 25,000 souls might even be, to buy. And what that does is it opens up a shortcut in the forest. So we haven't really been down to the forest yet. And we're going to go maybe check that out towards the end of this episode. What we're going to do is we're going to buy the crest, and we're going to go down and we're going to open the door, the shortcut with the Crest of Artorias. And what that does is it opens up a small area where you can either join a covenant, or if you choose not to join the covenant, you can fight a series of sort of NPC style, player style NPCs. So sort of like the bandit class, the sorcerer class, things like that. All those guys will attack you. And what you can do is kind of convince them to fall off a cliff. And if you do that, then you're on to, I think, about 10 to 12,000 souls. So 2 runs of that and you already get back everything that you've sunk in to actually open the door. And if you run it 5, 6, 7 times, then of course you start to build up a massive surplus of souls that you can use to get some more levels. It'll help you out in the immediacy, I suppose, to get some levels, but it's also good to count on if you need to get stuff for like shopping needs. If you want to buy upgrade materials or try out a new weapon or get some armor or spells, if you're running a magic build here or anything and you want to talk to some of the magic using NPCs, then you're probably going to want to open that door so you have access to all this. We're going to rest at this bonfire so that if anything should go wrong, this is the closest way to get back down. There is still tons of things to see in Blighttown and I do want to explore it. There's enemies you can farm upgrade materials off of. There's actually a couple of additional areas to have a little look around in. There's important rings and things to find. If you're running a dexterity build or a really serious pyromancy build, I know of at least a good pyromancy spell and also a very good dex weapon in the area. These are all things we will come back to when we're a little bit stronger. They're probably manageable right now. It's not something I have a great deal of experience with, and I suppose it's really, again, it's a personal choice. It's up to you guys. If you've been to Blighttown before, if you've been exploring it and did it a different way from what I've done here in the video, then you'll either have found those items or at least you'll know enough about the additional parts of Blighttown to be confident enough to go check it out. So this is really the hardest bit. Getting off of that thing without falling to your death, I find, is often the hardest part. And from here we're just doing the exact same thing we did to get here, but in reverse. So we're heading all the way up. Back to the cave, back through the Valley of Drakes, back through New Londo. Watch out for those guys. There's actually a decent item down there. There's another Firekeeper soul, which will strengthen your Estus Flask further. Again, it's something we'll be looking at again a little bit later down the line. But right now, that Toxic Blow Dart guy is not alone. He has a couple of buddies, and if you get hit with Toxic at this point, I think with such technically low health, then yeah, we'll probably be screwed and we'll die super quick. And with 25,000 souls on us and a mission, we really don't want that to happen. So we're just going to avoid that right now. There will be an easier way to come back to Blighttown a little bit later on. And that's what I always like to emphasise here, and I'll start it now as we move forward, is that a lot of these areas will be very easily revisitable later on in the game, so don't worry about it. Don't worry that things are being missed out and we're leaving them for now. We're just trying to push forward to the point where we can freely move about the map, and once we get to that point we can just hit all the little nooks and crannies, get all the little important items, so that when we actually begin the second half of the game in earnest, that will have all the items, stats, abilities, everything that we need to ensure that things go as smoothly as possible. So I had a little peek whenever we were making our way back there as well, and once again our pyromancy teacher Quillana did not show up. I don't know if perhaps you have to free another dude, Laurentius, first. I don't think that's really relevant. It might just be that you actually need to put your pyromancy flame higher. I thought it was +5, it may indeed be +10. It'll be something that I'll have a little look at as we go forward. But what's important right now is that we're heading back to Firelink Shrine. Now, if you remember a few episodes ago when we made our way back down here, or made our way down here in the first place, then we were faced with a law trick. We chose to, this is Sparta 300 style law trick, off a cliff and kill him, and we got his items. If you didn't do that, if you left Lautrec alive sitting here when you headed down to Blighttown, when you ring the second bell and return, Anastasia will be dead and the bonfire here at Firelink Shrine will not work. It will be inoperable and you can't sit at it. It's not the worst thing in the world. Firelink Shrine is a great bonfire to have. A lot of the NPCs you'll save throughout the game will be here, and of course once you get into the sort of halfway point of the game, there is a way to stop Lautrec and bring Anastasia and the bonfire back. But if you just want the safety of the shrine and the closer checkpoints between here and there, then you might be better killing Lautrec, taking his ring, and then saving your bonfire. So an interesting point is that here in the church something has changed, and this is our buddy Frampt. So Frampt is known as Kingseeker Frampt. He's a bit creepy, don't worry about it, and he says he's a friend of Lord Gwyn. So he is trying to push you further on your quest to ring the bells, reach the city of the gods, And let's see if he mentions it. Yeah.
Your fate is to succeed the great Lord Wind, so that you.
And there you go. So he's going to tell you to go to Anor Londo, the city of the gods, pick up the Lord Vessel, and ultimately you're going to succeed Gwyn, who, again, if you watch the intro cutscene, which we skipped, then you'll know that Gwyn is the sort of Zeus of this game. He's sort of the god of gods. If you keep talking to Frampt here, you can feed him items. You might not want to do that. That's absolutely fine, but you can feed him other things like this. So if you don't have the 20,000 souls, if you've already used it to level up, but you might think you have enough items, you can come here and feed Frampt a bunch of souls. A bunch of items, sorry, and he will give you some souls in return. It's not a bad little system. It can come in useful, and it does have some surprising sort of lore implications. Some, will we see that? Maybe not. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But essentially, you can tell who Frampt likes and dislikes, and the kind of path that he follows and believes in based on the kind of souls he'll give you for stuff. So, for instance, I think he was offering us 500 souls for a Sunlight Medal. So that could indicate, you know, Sunlight Medal, the Sunlight Bros, those guys kind of worship Gwyn and kind of follow his teachings. And as you can already tell, Frampt is very much a Gwyn fan. So he's always going to give you more for things like that, because that's the kind of, that's his politics, that's the way he believes. You can just ignore these guys, don't worry about it at all. And we're just going to head back down to our favourite bonfire. As I said, I think I mentioned it a few episodes ago, this bonfire here at Andre will become the most important bonfire in the game, in my opinion. It's just so useful, it has everything around about it. So much still happens at Firelink and around it, and there's little character events and everything. Sens is always good to go, there's a merchant somewhere hidden in Sens too. And you've got Andre down below, access to the forest. It's just such a handy place to go. If you do want to do your level ups, by the way, let's see how many we're going to get just by chance. So 5. You'll get 5 for 25k. So not a huge amount, but it might be enough to make a big difference to your build at this point. If you're going for something a little bit different from mine, then you never know the kind of effect it might have. But we're going to come and talk to Andre. And we are going to move right over here and buy the Crest of Artorias, which is 20,000. So that's great. And, if we want to reinforce the claymore, what do we need? We need an extra shard. Fine by me. We're just going to try and get this bad boy up to as much as we can. So again, give us 3 more shards, brother. And then upgrade the claymore to +5. And at this point, we're going to have to get the large ember. Yes. Okay. That makes sense. So the large ember, along with Laurentius, an NPC that we need, and another NPC if you're on a sort of magic build, are actually in an area that we haven't been to yet and could have accessed on our way down to Blighttown. So we might need to take a short detour before we head to Sen. So this is definitely going to be the biggest sideways part of these videos. As you can see there, by the way, just ignore that guy. Like, you can absolutely just keep an eye on his lightning and then just run around him. If you fight him, you'll get some Demon Titanite off him. If you kill him, Demon Titanite is used to upgrade boss weapons. Does it need unlimited unique weapons? I don't think so, it's just boss weapons. You want to creep your way through this forest, because guys like this are always hiding. They're very well hidden as trees, and they'll always keep sneaking out of the darkness to get a shot at you. So just take your time. There's absolutely no rush to get through here. There's a bonfire just back at the parish. You've just rested at. If you're like me, you've just spent all your souls, so you're not about to lose a bunch of them anywhere. And you just want to knock this guy down. Is there a guy behind us? Nope. Okay, if you head this way, we're not going to do that right now. If you head this way, you can get access to a crystal lizard. There's a dark knight, or a black knight, who can drop one of the best weapons in the entire game if you're incredibly lucky. It'll take you back to the Valley of the Drakes if you follow one shortcut, or it'll take you to the tower at the Taurus Demon, which I mentioned, I believe, in episode 2, where you will find Havel, the very strong NPC, waiting for you. So it's all very much interconnected. Here, there's a bit of an ambush going on. There's a tree guy dead ahead, as you can see. He's kind of making his way towards us. And he's going to try and hit us from range. Ah, I hate it when they do that. You don't want to move too far. Boom. The R2 and the R1 in this is very useful. As you move by, this dude's kind of hiding in the bushes and is also apparently immune to being hit. These guys aren't too bad, as you can see. They go down in a couple of hits. They're very simple. If you do manage to kill them, most of the time they will drop moss. Not a single one has dropped any for me, but they do drop it quite regularly. So if you're worried about getting poisoned or toxic, then these guys drop the curative for that. Here we are at the door. So in case you didn't know where the Crest of Artorias is to go, it's the big shiny door. This is going to open our way and cut out a lot of annoying legwork we might need to do in the second half of the game. Before you go any further, you can make your way through here and set out this bonfire, which is always good. It will bring back the tree guys. They won't really attack you from this point though. It's only if you start to make your way back. What we're going to do is maybe try and get a run of this. It might not be perfect. It's been a long time since I did it. But essentially, as you can kind of see, there's some NPCs hiding out here in these woods. What we're going to do is draw the aggro of like all of them if we can. We want this bandit guy. There's this knight dude and a priest dude and there's all sorts. You'll get hit with some magic spells perhaps. Just stay true. Do not worry. And just sort of like head up in here. And it did not work with this guy. And now I am trapped. And now I am dead. Because I got two-handed off an axe. But basically, what you want to do is run into that corner there. And these guys will try and follow you up by running up the stairs and dropping off. I think what I actually did was wrong by running up the stairs. I think what you're really meant to do is just run into the corner and they will take an alternative route by going up the stairs and over your head. And what they'll do is fall off the cliff. And they offer a decent amount of souls each. We don't really need that 1500, so we're just going to leave that right now and we're going to try and get, oh, a bit done here, I just remembered. Because I died. We are going to need to be human for this next part. I forget how it works in this, because I've been playing Dark Souls 2, where you can just go human whenever you want. That's not really an option in this game. Just want to pop a humanity. We'll reverse our hollowing. And we're going to make a quick run to a boss. This boss can be a bit of a pain depending on what kind of build you've got. If you've got a ranged build, it'll probably help you out a lot more. Bows and arrows aren't really viable in this game. But, you know, if you've got lightning spears as a faith build, or if you've got some soul arrows as a faith build, an intelligence build, then you'll find them pretty easy, but we're going to get some help for it to take care of it for us. That is the most obvious trap in the world. So we're going to leave that right now. I think it's just like a large soul of a nameless soldier or something. It's like 1,000 souls on the ground. It's good to have, but not something we necessarily need. These dudes are going to wake up straight away. Just ignore them. Just ignore them. If you get too close to them, you may find out that you won't have enough sort of firepower to deal with them right now. That's not really the worst thing. We're going to run under this bush, by the way, and summon Witch Beatrice. Not having enough firepower to deal with these guys isn't really the issue. The problem you're going to have is that they can cast a spell. She is coming, isn't she? There you go. Yep, the problem is that these guys can cast a spell that stops you being able to run away. And that's what you don't want to get hit by. This is it right here, actually. There you go. The Tranquil Walk of Peace, that's called. It will stop you being able to run, as you can see. Oh, actually I can run. Yep, there we go. Oh, okay, so it's if you're close to them. Okay, I didn't expect them to attack me. That's pretty funny. She just one-shots that, because of course she does. And that is why we're going to use Witch Beatrice for this fight. Melee fighters like myself, you do actually have a chance to hurt this boss, but they're going to be few and far between opportunities, so it's not really something we're going to rely on. We're going to allow Beatrice to do the battling for us. Here's our buddy, the Moonlight Butterfly. You can see these sort of glowing spots around the walls. These are the places that the butterfly is going to stop and allow melee users such as us with our big claymore to get damage. So these guys use primarily magic attacks, so it means even if you've got a physical defensive shield like we do, it's not really going to matter too much. It's up to you if you want to just tank these shots with a shield. The sort of soul arrowy one they just did there, as you can see, doesn't really do too much damage. He has these sort of 3 homing soul arrows as well, and then he has one final one which is like a massive sort of explosion. He also has one whenever he comes down to touch. Well, I'm saying he. It's too elegant to be a he, surely. So, as you can kind of see as well, the butterfly. So as you can see, he's starting to glow there. Actually, we'll just focus on that right now. That's when he's going to do his explosion and boost away. Don't worry about that. But as you can tell from looking at the health bar already, not really a massive pain in the butt from that point of view. Especially if you've got Beatrice doing her damage, and then she kills him. You may wonder why that was all necessary. Well, there's a couple of reasons, I suppose. Boss souls, always good. High amount of souls for killing a boss, 10k right there, always good as well. But more importantly for us is my best Ocarina of Time impression is this: the Watchtower Key and the Divine Ember. So the Watchtower Key is going to get us into that tower where Havel is. If you don't have the Master Key, we do, so it doesn't really matter to us. So we can get into that basement anyway. And then the Divine Ember, which is going to allow us to enchant weapons with Divine. Divine is kind of important for, again, the second part of the game. In the second half of the game, we're going to come in contact with enemies who can sort of revive themselves ad nauseum, unless you have a Divine weapon to put them down permanently. So we're going to be able to enchant another weapon with Divine and use that as a sort of skeleton killer, a zombie killer in the second half of the game. So it's good to grab, and now is probably a good time to actually start looking at these kind of things. We're coming up for the half hour right now. There's one more thing I want to do on the way back, and then we'll call it there for the day. But what I'd like to say, I suppose, is then next episode we might not go to Sens either. We might actually start to take that detour down towards the depths. I don't really want to actually go to the depths because it means going through the Capra Demon, who is a really, really frustrating boss fight. And there's a reason we've kind of avoided them up to now. But with additional stats and stuff, if we use the XP we've got here from the Moonlight Butterfly and things, we might have enough to beef ourselves up enough to just take him down, no problem. So, the last thing we grabbed right there, I'm just resting at the bonfire in order to reset the enemies, is a new set of armour. It's much heavier than this. How is it going to affect our rolling? You probably need to put a little bit more into endurance. Let's see. It is endurance that deals with equip load, isn't it? Yeah. How much are we getting to? We'll just put it in there. Like I said, we're going to try and get endurance probably to 20 as soon as we can. It might not make a massive difference probably here. Nope, didn't really. That's okay, but the Elite Knight armor set is really quite good. What about the gold hem dress? Are you lighter? No, you're actually heavier than my boots. It's quite crazy. The Elite hem dress set is actually Elite hemmed, gold hemmed set. It's actually a pretty solid armor set. Actually does quite well. You can wear it all. It's pretty light. Still keep a good roll, and it lets you look like a ring wraith. So, they're all positives. It's pretty good. You'll recognise this as we get into the second half of the game as well. I know I'm teasing the second half of the game here, but we're right on the cusp of it. Sens and then Anor Londo after are the sort of midway points of the game, and once we topple that, the second half of the game becomes entirely open to us in whatever way we want to tackle it, and we'll just choose to do that. But we've got this right now. What we're going to do next time then, guys, is probably head back to the Parish and then down towards the depths. It's going to let us get an NPC guaranteed in the area before the Capra Demon. If I can shake the rust off and actually kill the Capra Demon, we'll make our way down into the depths, and that's going to let us get the large ember, which will let us enforce the claymore up to towards +10, which we're really going to want. You kind of really want to try and get as close to a +10 weapon before you get to Anor Londo. as possible. And we'll also find a third NPC who, for a guy like us who has a sort of a pyromancy hand on second, is going to be very important because he's going to offer us a little bit more diversity in our spells. We can finally drop fireball, pick up something else that'll maybe have some more practical use. But for me right now, guys, that is everything. Today we have made our way through the first part of Demon Ruins, got rid of the Ceaseless, bought our way into the forest, which is going to stand us in good stead for later down the line, but also gives us a little bit of a soul farming spot if we really want to use it. We've got ourselves a fancy new set of armour, defeated the Moonlight Butterfly and got the Divine Ember. And we're going to make our way towards the depths to ensure that we are as prepared as possible for Sen's Fortress in the coming episodes. But that is it for me today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave it a like. If you got any comments, feedback, suggestions for me, leave them in the comments section below. If you're enjoying this content and want to see more, then please feel free to hit that sub button. But as I said, guys, I am done for the day. Until next time, we are all in this together. Please be good to one another. Alright? See you.